All right.
On your study
Ready
guide.
to get
That's
started?
another thing I need to do.
Let's start with the change in schedule. It's been crazy. We haven't gotten together in like a week and a half, I think. And you haven't had any homework that whole time, which is extra crazy. Perfect, crazy, same thing. So what's happened is your quiz is now on February 14th. So mark your calendars. I don't remember the date it was on, but it's no longer there. So 2 weeks. We're going to do chapter 2 today and next Monday. Then Wednesday of next week and the following Monday we'll do chapter 11, and then we'll get into and then we'll have the second quiz. I didn't get a chance to put this all up there, but we're going to talk about Investopedia next. All right. Abigail, you went from 8th to 2nd place, and I wanted to see why. Is this yours? You look here. I have 3. No, that's Nick's. Is Nick in this class? No, he's not. All right. This is Abigail's. And I wanted to see why, and I looked and I said, oh my gosh. Anybody see which stock is it that gave her a big launch yesterday? Can't hear you. Amazon. She's up 12% on Amazon in a very short period of time. Let me look at the date that you bought it. She bought it. Is this Abigail? Yep. She bought it on the 17th of January, so it's only been like 2 weeks.
Does that mean I should get out of it?
Well, what is my usual advice when something springs up this much in such a short period of time? Sell half. Sell half. If you think it could keep going up, sell half. But don't risk it all, because you just won the lotto, and you don't want to let it all ride on the lotto again, because the odds are against you. So at least get half of it out of it. She's made $497.85 on the investment. She has about a little less than 4,000 into it. So you went over the 2,000, which was smart. You know, she had a good. What made you decide to invest in Amazon? What was it that brought Amazon? Even if you tell me you randomly threw a dart, that's fine. Do you have any?
I think like Amazon. I just see Amazon. I don't even know if this is related to the stock markets, but it's like it's always expanding. Everyone uses it. It's like
that's what made you decide.
It's very secure. Yeah.
So when you were looking to invest in something, you said, "Hey, what about Amazon?" And you found it and said, "I'm going to do it." Look at the price per share, by the way. Is that it? Wait a minute, I got to look again. Is that really it? $1,459 for one share. It's very odd, you know, to see a price so high. And I'm going to guess that Amazon, sometime in the near future, is going to do what's called a stock split. For everybody that has a share, all of a sudden will turn into 2 shares, but the price will go down in half. So we'll go from like $14.59 to 720 something, 29, 28, to bring the price down to try to attract more investors who don't want to pay $1,459 per share. And that's kind of a normal procedure for a lot of companies. But Amazon was just in the news yesterday. I don't know if this all happened yesterday or before yesterday, but they're getting with a financial company called J.P. Morgan and an insurance company called Berkshire Hathaway, and they're putting a new company together. It's all about changing the way healthcare is provided to employees. And this was giant news yesterday because these are some really innovative big companies combining their innovativeness to try something new. And that could have possibly gave that a jump yesterday. I'm not sure. Maybe that did or not. And then I went to, let's see, who's this? I also looked at, well, hang on, let me get back here. Somebody jumped out at me. Somebody went, is that Haley, B-R-U-T? Where are you at? Is that Haley? Haley also had a jump, 7 spots, 20 to 13. You see why? Is this it? No, is this it? There you are. Let's figure out what happened here. Anybody see which company it is? Same company, Amazon. Did you know this? Which is fine, but you guys, you got to check it once in a while because the market closed at 4, and if I had gone up 15%, now why is hers 15 and hers 12? She got in earlier. She got in, I got a date here, hang on. You got in on the 11th instead of the 17th. What made you decide to buy Amazon? I mean, was it just a hunch or just because you heard of it?
I use it all the time.
Because you use it all the time. And that's what made you said, I'm going to buy a stock. I use Amazon all the time. Let's buy Amazon. And then you found the symbol AMZN, and you did the trade. You actually did 2 trades that same day. But that one's paid off for you. I want to tell you, you've got to watch out. This market is starting to have what I call the volatility ups and downs that are bigger than normal. And you know, in my experience, when I start seeing the ups and downs of the overall market starting to look like a rubber band, it's usually a warning sign. Something's coming, and usually it's not good. It's just my experience. So be careful. When you've made, I forgot the percent you made, 15? When you've made 15% in only about 2.5 or 3 weeks, you want to get some of that $395 off the betting table and not risk so much of it. You have only 2 shares. That's tough. You'd have to, if you want to leave some there just in case, you would only be able to sell 1 share and leave 1 share. But I think it'd be worth it, or sell them both. Abigail, how many shares was yours?
3.
3. So that's the problem when the price is so high. You can only own 1, 2, or 3 shares, and so when you want to get half off, it's so weird. She has to decide whether she's going to sell 1 share or 2 shares, or all of them. I mean, that's a tough decision because the price is so high. And she's trying to do it right now, even though the market's closed.
No.
And then there was one more I looked at. Somebody jumped from 20. Wait, Haley, is that you? I just talked about yours. Hang on. There's someone else. It was 30 to something. Where are you? No. Who was it? Darn it. Is that it? Maybe it wasn't. Who's this? Oh, it was, it's not in this class. It was Nick.
Yeah, I'm right here.
This is you?
Yeah.
What the heck?
Yeah, sorry.
All right, let's see what did. I don't want this page. Where's the other page? Is this yours? No, why don't I have the other page? What's going on? Oh, this is yours? No, this isn't yours. Anyway, darn it. Oh, because you sold everything. That's why I don't have the other page. He's out. He says, I've made some real money. I don't want to take any more risk. I'll think about something maybe coming up, but right now I want to get off this roller coaster. And if you look at his, here's how you can determine by his history as to what did it for him. You look at, first of all, you can look at what he bought it at. In this case, Twitter, $25.35, and then you could go and say, what did he end up selling it at? $25.61. Well, that only went up, less than 30 cents, but look at how many shares he had, 80. And so, let's see, he spent $2,034, and this represents the fees already out of there. So this, when you get to your paper, you're going to type something about how much you spent, and you want the fee to be taken into consideration. It's always this total cash value column. He spent $2,034.77, and when he sold it, he got $2,041.81. That's not that big a deal, so that's not the one. Now you look at HON, I can't remember what it represents. Honeywell. He spent $2,074 when he sold it, $2,070, he lost money. Tesla, he spent $2,023 when he bought it, sold it, $2,042, that's a little increase. So really none of them are jumping out of me. You just got out of there because you had made a little bit on 2 or 3 of them and you just want to see what happens from there. And he's actually possibly thinking that the stock market's going to go down. He wants all the suckers to lose money, and then he'll get back in after it goes down. Possibly? What'd you say?
Possibly.
That wasn't it. What made you? Then you tell us. What made you decide to sell it all?
They were down for so long, and once they got up, I just took advantage of it.
Okay. He said I was losing money. I'm going to hang out. Hey, look, they've made a little bit of money. I'm getting out of there because they could go right back down again, right? And and when did you sell? Just recently? Yeah,
Yes.
one was just today.
Yeah. I sold it last night and went through this morning.
At 10. So you can kind of see how long it takes for something to go through in the morning. The market opens at 9:30. If he put this trade in last night, it didn't go through till 10:04 a.m., so it was like a half-hour delay. But still made some money, though. 30 cents a share times 80. All right, had enough of this? Real quick. we should be on like chapter 11 right now, so I'm about to point something out to you that you wouldn't learn until about a week from now, or you're supposed to learn now, but we're not going to learn it for a week. You ready? This is something brand new that I want you to start looking at as you're buying and selling. By the way, if you have not bought or sold anything today or before, you've just lost 8 or 9 points on your paper. Because you have to have a transaction per calendar month, and today was the very last day for January you had to make a trade. You just killed your paper grade, a whole grade. Don't let it happen again for February, right? Don't let it happen. Let this lesson be learned right now. You don't want to kill your paper grade a whole nother grade. That'd be crazy. I can tell by some reactions there's at least 3 or 4 people that did this. Crazy. All right, beta. Look up there for beta. What's the number? 1.34. Here's how you analyze this beta. Beta is compared to the number 1 or negative 1. If it's exactly 1, it means that this stock historically moves up and down with the overall market very similar to the percentages of up and down in the same direction. So if the overall stock market goes up 1% tomorrow, or that stock historically goes up about 1%. If the beta is a negative, it means that this stock historically has been going the opposite direction of the overall market. So if the overall market goes up 1% tomorrow, possibly this stock would go down 1% tomorrow because historically it's been going in the opposite direction. Negative 1 means but the same type of percent. Let's say this is a positive 0.8. Positive means that it historically goes in the same direction as the overall market, but the ups and downs are not as big. The stock market goes up tomorrow. If history repeats, this stock would only go up about 80% of 1% tomorrow, not as much. If the overall market goes down 1%, this goes in the same direction, but it wouldn't go down as much, maybe 80% of 1%. And so investors usually say, I don't want to take as much risk, so I'm looking for stocks with a beta less than 1. They consider that to be more conservative investment because that stock historically has smaller moves up and down than the overall market. And investors look at that as saying, hey, if this market crashes, this stock, because the beta is less than 1 or less than negative 1, will not have as big as a down if it follows history. So what if it has a negative 0.8? Same philosophy, it won't have as big ups and downs, but it usually goes in the opposite direction. So let's say you're going, I want to be conservative. I want to find a stock that has a beta less than 1 or less than negative 1. But I think the market might be going down here soon. Would you be looking for a stock that has a positive or a negative 0.8, let's say? Positive or negative, if you think the market could be going down soon, but you still want to invest?
Negative.
Because you want to pick a stock that historically goes the opposite direction of the market, so you might start looking for a negative beta, but you want to stay conservative, so maybe a negative less than 1, 0.8, negative 0.9, negative 0.5, a little more conservative. All right, you're in 50th place, no, let's go to 60th place or worse. And you're decided you need to start taking risk to get out of the bottom. And you're just ready to say, let's let the dice roll, because I need to get out of the bottom. You might say, I want to take some real risk. I'm going to look for some stocks who have larger betas than 1. 1.3, 1.5, negative 1.3, negative 1.5. Historically, those stocks have bigger ups and downs than the overall market. And if you think the stock market's about to go up, and you take the risk on a stock that's 1.34, and the stock market goes up, and it's a positive 1.34, historically, this stock has had bigger ups than the overall market, and the risk will pay off if it follows history. Let's say it's a negative 1.34. You'd be saying, I hope the market goes down, because historically, this stock will go up even more as a percent than the market went down. And that's taking the reverse risk, but still taking a risk because the number is more than one, either larger than -1 or larger than +1. That was kind of tough to explain. Does everybody see the picture pretty much? If you feel like you want to be conservative, but you realize you need to buy stock, maybe look for betas that are less than 1 or less than -1. And if you think the market could be going down, head towards the negative beta type stocks. Get it? If you're a risk taker, because now you're in 60th place, and believe me, do not worry about what place you're in. There are many times where 60th place or worse have been in the top 10 by the end. And some people jump 10 or 20 spots in one day. So do not let that affect your decisions. If you feel like you're ready to take risks, then you're going to start looking for some stocks that have big betas, bigger than -1, bigger than +1, like -1.5 or +1.5 or larger. Take the risk. So that's the beta. All I ask is now as you start investing, maybe use your phone to take a picture of the beta so that if this stock ends up being the one that gets you out of the 60th place and gets you up into 20th place, you might end up writing a little bit about it. And I would like for you to include the beta because that helped you decide to buy it maybe. Now that it's January 31st or later if you make the purchase. So take a picture of the beta.
Is that the only place we can get the beta on Yahoo Finance?
It's the easiest place to get it, but
Okay.
it should be almost on any website that gives you the information about the stock. But I always find this one the easiest to get the information. I like Yahoo Finance a lot, and I look at it like every day almost. Okay, that's all I got to say. Chapter 2. We'd have subjects up there, but I didn't have time, so. Oh, wait. I talked about the revised schedule. Oh, it's time for one of these. I know you've seen 100 of them right now. It's time for another one. I can't believe I didn't put this on the first quiz, but it only fits so much. You've gotten that first credit card because you're building your score up. I know you've seen these. And your credit card that you've gotten is about, the 0%'s about to end, and you're thinking about doing a balance transfer to another card, and you've got a $1,000 balance on it. If you just transfer it to this card, what will be your interest rate during the next 11 months, let's say? You give me the interest rate. If you decide to do the balance transfer here, and what will be the fee, either in percent or money? First of all, what would be the interest rate if you do a balance transfer onto this card? Where's it at? Which box? Top, bottom?
The annual fee you said?
Nope.
Oh.
What will be your interest
Oh,
rate
interest rate.
if you do a balance transfer onto this card because you owe $1,000 on the card that the promotion's about to end on? And you're saying, I don't want to pay it off. I want to transfer it to another card. Is
0%.
the information I'm asking for at the top or bottom? Top. I'm asking for the interest rate. Top. It says annual percentage rate for purchases and transfers. That's a balance transfer. Your interest rate would be 0% until October of 2018. So I accidentally said 12 months. I should have done it. I didn't read it. What would be your interest rate between now and October? How's that? 0%. And then the other question was, how much will your fee be, either as a percent or money, if you decide to do the balance transfer? Is there a fee? Yes. And how much? 3%. Let's take a look. Transaction fees. Right there. You see where it says transfer. 3% of the amount of the transfer that posts to your account through October of 2018. $1,000 at 3%. I'll take 3% because I said the question, give me the percent or amount. But if you did want to do an amount, it'd be 3% of 1,000, which is whatever that is, $30? $30. There's the answers. This wasn't on your first quiz, but it is in your future sometime, probably twice in your future, this is coming. I show you these, you're probably getting bored with them, but later in life, you're going to go, God, I'm glad someone showed me this. Because you're going to see a lot of them in your life, whether you like it or not, unless you just throw them away without opening them. Where are we at? We're right here. Money management. Here's All right, first, I gotta go to slide 10. Here's one of the most important things from this chapter, right here. Net worth. A lot of time I'll ask college students, I say, hey, did you save any money last month? Did you save any money? And they'll say, yeah, my savings went from $1,000 to $1,100. I saved $100 last month. Okay, that's fine. As you get older, you can't just look at your savings to decide if you've saved money or not. You must calculate your net worth to know if you've saved money, because your finances are going to get much more complex as you get older and older, because you've got a loan for a car, you've got a loan on a house, you've got 2 or 3 credit cards going, you've got this income coming in, you've got this other thing going on, and yes, you put money in your savings maybe, but if you don't have any, if your savings didn't go up, it doesn't mean you didn't save any money. Maybe you made a payment on a credit card, maybe you made a payment on the house, maybe you made a payment on the car. And so by calculating your net worth, that's how you truly keep track if you're really saving money. Net worth says take your assets minus your liabilities. Now let me define assets. If you looked at everything you own that you could sell fast, right? Now if you have some great collection of clothes, you could include that. I've had students tell me before, can I include my makeup? I don't know how much makeup goes for it, but if you have some really nice, expensive makeup and you could sell it quickly, that's an asset. Anything you own that has value that you could sell. You have money in a savings account, that's an asset. You have some kind of a savings bond from a grandparent when you turn 10 and you still have it, that's an asset. What's its value? Anything that has value that you could turn into cash is an asset. Liability is anything you would have to pay if someone said, you got to pay everything you owe anybody right now, and it's how much you would have to pay. If you had to pay off your car loan right now, what would be the payoff? If you had to pay your house loan off right now, what would be the payoff? If you owe your parents $500, that would be a liability. Anything you owe, and if you said, I'm gonna pay all my debts, add them up. You take all your assets, you subtract all your liabilities, and that's your net worth. And so if you're doing it that way, it doesn't matter if you're saving money by putting in a savings account or you're paying off an extra payment towards a loan of some kind. They're all will be in that net worth calculation so you can truly see if you've really saved money. Assets minus liabilities, net worth. You're going to see this on your next quiz. It's going to say, hey, so-and-so has this much in assets, they have this much in liabilities, what's their net worth? The next time you see it on that quiz, it's going to say, this person has a net worth of this much and their liabilities are this much. What do they have in assets? So know the formula. Assets minus liabilities equals net worth. If you're given this, you're given this, you would add these two to get that. If you're given the assets and you're given the net worth, right, you would subtract to get that, I think. You got to think about that for a minute, but yeah. So you've got to be able to calculate this no matter which two you have. But in real life, you're going to always calculate your assets, always calculate your liabilities, and subtract the liabilities from assets, and look at that. And I always suggest do it once a month. Once a month. You can do it less often, but I recommend once a month to really know if you're truly saving money. If you're working a job that has a retirement program and you're putting some money in there and your employer is matching it, go online and see what that account balance is, because that money your employer put in there is increasing your asset. And that's helping you save.
So according to that formula then, like let's say for a college student who's going into debt, if a college student is going into debt, then they would have to be making more than what...
It's not based on what you make it off. It's what you own minus what you owe. And yes, when I graduated college, this was a big negative number.
Okay.
I owed more than what I owned.
I was going to say, yeah, it doesn't seem like
That's
you'd
right.
save very much if you're going into debt.
And I knew I was in a negative net worth, which is common for a college student at graduation. I mean, I can't be the only one that has student loans in college. Anybody taking out a student loan at all? Okay, there's several of you taking out student loans. You might have a negative net worth when you graduate. It's not uncommon. You start out in the hole. I just hope it's not too big. I luckily had a part-time work-study job. I was really poor when I was in college. And I had a work-study job, so I just got student loans to help pay for, you know, like tuition and books and supplies, and maybe there's a little extra where I'd get a small little refund at the, it used to be towards the middle of the semester, you get your refund. I think they do it earlier nowadays, don't you? The amount not needed for tuition. But I never went after the full amount of the loan. I know I had friends who were living off their student loans saying, I'm not going to work, I got enough in student loans to live off. They owed so much after graduation though, it took them forever to get out of that. You know, they were paying and paying and paying for over 10 years. Where, you know, I was trying to borrow just what I needed and living off my work study money instead of student loan money. So I didn't owe as much as a lot of people I know. And it probably won't sound like a lot compared to what you have to borrow now, but tuition was a lot less expensive many, many, many years ago when I was in college. I think I owed, I got to think about $6,000 total, and I would imagine you're probably going to be 3 times that, 12 or 15,000. Am I close? No? Am I too high? Really? You're borrowing less than 12 or 15 at the end?
Usually it's higher than that, I think.
Higher than 15,000?
At the end of a 4-year degree?
I
Oh,
don't know.
yeah.
I'm asking.
Am I right?
20,000?
It's
Is
like-
it going to be more than 20,000? Anybody?
It just depends. I don't know.
So am I getting close? 20,000? Wow, see, to me that sounds like a lot, but maybe that's, you know, maybe
The
that
average,
is the
the
equivalent
average
of-
statistics is 40,000.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's going to take a while to pay it off. Now, when I graduated, they spread my payments over 10 years, I believe, and my payment was about, I think it was a little less than $100 a month. But at 20,000, I'm going to guess your payment's going to be like $300 a month. Does that sound right? Do they ever estimate what your payment might be when you graduate? Do you ever get those? They don't? All right. It's going to be like a car payment. That's what it was. It's like a car payment for me.
Yeah,
But
it's 300.
it didn't take me long to realize that the interest rate on my student loans were so good. I mean, this is many years ago, but they were only like 3%. And you could put money in a savings account and earn 5%. And I kept thinking, why am I stressing out to pay my student loan off? I'm going to save money. I kept thinking, I'm going to save enough money to pay my student loan off in full, because this thing's just eating me alive. And as I'm saving money, I'm going, wait a minute, why should I pull my money out of this savings account? I'm just going to make the $100 payment, because I'm actually earning more than I'm paying on the loan. If I pay off this lump sum, I'm not doing myself any favors. I'm actually coming out 2% ahead by not paying off my loan. And just keep saving it and not pay it off in full. I don't know what the interest rates are today on loans. Help me out. I heard 5. Is that what you
I
said?
think
5?
it's yeah.
5?
3 to 5 or 7.
6, 8.
Yeah.
Is that high?
Depends on the loan you get.
You got to
It goes up
refinance.
every year.
Refinance.
It's not mine.
Oh.
My boyfriend goes to Canada.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
He needs to refinance.
He pays his interest rate off every
Well, he needs to refinance it anyway. And right now, you can't earn more than 3 or 6 or 5% on a savings account. So you should be paying that loan, because it's the same as making 3, 5, or 6% on your money by paying off as much of that loan as you can. Better than the savings account. But when things turn around in the savings account, you can earn more than the student loan rate you're being charged. Don't make extra payments on a loan. Just pay the minimum and enjoy making money on their money is really how you look at it. So you got to keep looking at interest rates. And if your student loan is higher than other students you talk to, hey, what's your rate on your loan? Your loan. Consider looking for a way to refinance your student loan to bring that rate down, to save money in the big picture. So anyway, net worth. Liabilities, yes, whatever your student loan payoff is, that is a liability, and it will possibly make it a negative net worth. Next, I want to talk about the balance sheet. We're going to page 49 in your book. If you don't have the latest edition, help them out. Tell them what page. It's got to be around 49. That's showing up. Here's an example of a balance sheet. On a balance sheet, always assets are kind of towards the top, liabilities are below it, and net worth is always right at the bottom. Look at the assets here. This is the reason I'm showing this balance sheet is assets are split up into We're only going to talk about two parts. One's called liquid assets, and the other one's called other assets. I can see you have other things other than the word other assets, but liquid assets are at the top, and where it says real estate and investments, those would be the other assets. Liquid assets, let me define that for you, is anything you own that could be turned into cash fast. A savings account, you could go to the ATM and get your hands on the money. That's liquid. You know, a checking account, well, whatever the balance is in there, that's liquid. What else is up there? It says cash value of insurance policy. If you have a life insurance policy that was given to you by your parents or some crazy thing, and you could go cash it in a very short period of time, like tomorrow I'm going to go cash that life insurance policy in or get a hold of the company, have them cash it in, that's liquid. It's anything you own that you could turn into cash fast. That's liquid. Selling something on Craigslist, that's not liquid. You know, you think you can sell it fast, but in reality, there's no guarantee you can do it fast. But there's a guarantee you could go to the bank and pull money out of your checking account fast. That's why it's liquid. All right? The other ones, real estate, market value of your automobile. It's an asset, whatever that automobile is worth. But if you owe something on that car, in the asset section is what you think you could sell it for. In the liability section is what it would cost to pay that loan off. So it's in two categories. What it's worth and what is owed on it would be in the liability. Look at market value of automobile, $8,000. Somewhere down here in liability should be what's owed on the car. Balance due on auto loan, $1,750. So both parts of that car. Same with the house. If you were to sell this house tomorrow, here's what I think I would get for it, and then you got to be conservative. And then you go to the liability, you should see what would be owed on it if the loan were paid off tomorrow. So I'm going to house, I've got to find it. Current market value of home, $189,900. Go down to liabilities, mortgage. What's owed on the home, $91,600. And if this person's saying, I need to see, I wonder if I saved money last month, and they ended up putting extra money towards their mortgage, that number would go down, even though their savings account didn't go up, and they wouldn't realize they saved money unless they calculate their net worth and go, oh, I did save money because I worked that debt on my house down, which made the gap from what the house is worth to what I owe on it bigger, which made my net worth bigger, and they saved money, but a different way. Instead of just putting it in the savings account, they saved it by paying off some loan. Let me find another one here. Look at jewelry's up there. Home computer. You know, I want to tell you something. If anybody's buying laptops for over $300, you're crazy. Just thought I'd add that in there. All right. Home entertainment center, furniture and appliances. You know, that was one thing I had when I was in college is I always had a nice stereo. That was my thing. So that had value. What else? Retirement account. Investments like mutual funds. Now, liabilities. There's two sections. Current and long-term. These are all things that are owed, but the word current means that the balance needs to be paid off in less than a year. 1 year or less is called a current liability. If there's only 12 months left on that car loan, it's now a current liability, not a long-term. If your student loan, you've been paying it for the last 9 years, and you're down to the last year now of that student loan, it's now no longer a long-term liability, it's current liability. If it's something that's scheduled to take longer than a year to pay it off, then it's called a long-term liability. And those are the two sections. Current and long-term. Assets, liquid, and all the other assets. Those are the two I just want you to focus on. And then liabilities, current or long-term. And it's all about, if I gave you a question on the quiz, you'll say, hey, so-and-so has a mortgage, they've got 20 years left, and there's $89,000 owed on it. Is this a current or long-term liability? And you would say, can't hear you, long-term, because there's 20 years left on it. It's longer than a year. That's why it's long-term. Go ahead.
You said that you could be paying off like one of the liabilities,
Yep.
and then you wouldn't see it affect your savings, but you'd still be
You wouldn't
saving
see it
money.
up in savings because you didn't take the money and put it in savings. You paid off something, maybe you made an extra payment.
Okay,
on-
that's what I was going to ask about. So it has to be from an outside money source, though. It was because if it came from your savings, that would just cancel
That's
each
right,
other
right.
out.
Or yeah, good point.
Okay. So
Or
but-
you're saying, wow, I have an extra
Yeah.
You may have an extra $300 in your checking.
Yeah.
And you usually write the check for $450 for your mortgage, and you went ahead and wrote $850, which you got to remember to write. Put the extra on the principal. If you don't do that, you're telling the mortgage company that they get to decide what to do with the extra money. You got to watch out for that. It's a little law that nobody realizes, and they get burned on it. And you said put the extra directly towards principal. It brings the balance of what you owe on that mortgage down, which will be reflected right here. But yeah, if you took it out of your checking, but maybe you did it right after your paycheck got deposited, and sometimes
Before
you
when it-
shift it to savings, but this time you put it on the house. It's the net worth that will show that you still saved money, even though you didn't transfer it to savings. So net worth. This balance sheet, it looks big, but this really, in real life, you guys, about 15 years from now, yours is going to have a lot more than you see there. I know it's probably hard to imagine, but you're going to have a lot of different assets. You're going to have a lot of different liabilities. There's a lot of things that are going to be happening in your life after you graduate and you get that career job where you're making more money you ever made in your whole life. You start accumulating assets and accumulating liabilities, and this list gets big. So. All right, next. We got assets, we got liquid assets, we got liabilities, current and long-term liabilities. We're going to page 51. This is a very important page. I don't know how, if you have a used book and they took this class, there's probably marks all over this page. You want to tag it somehow, bend the corner over, I don't know, put a paper clip on it, whatever you can do. This page is in your future. You might have a picture of a pretty simple balance sheet and with some additional information. And then the question is going to ask you to calculate one or two or three of these ratios. And this page isn't all about just calculating what the ratio is, but then the question is going to say, would this be better or worse than, and I'm going to give you a number, and you got to understand whether your number is higher or lower, if that's good or bad. You ready? We're going to start at the top. Debt ratio. Debt ratio is liabilities, all the liabilities that a person might have, divided by net worth. Let's go back to that balance sheet for a second. I want to show you just as a quick example. Look for liabilities, total liabilities. Anybody see the number on this balance sheet? Give me a number.
99,000.
There it is. Total liabilities. Here's current, long-term, added together, 99,800. Divided by net worth. Where's the net worth? Always at the bottom. Divided by 159,240. You just pick it off there. You do this division. Now let's go back to our ratio. In this example, the liabilities were 25,000, the net worth was 50,000. So their debt ratio was 0.5. And the question may say, would this be better or worse than a person who has a debt ratio of 0.3?
Worse.
Worse. The higher that number is, the worse it is. And when I used to audit some credit unions, they used to say, for somebody to get the very best loan rate, they need a debt ratio of 0.3 or less. Some would say 0.5 or less. So they look at this, and when you go to apply for this big house loan you're about to, that you're going to watch, because after we get through the house chapter, the most important chapter this semester, the house chapter, this is where I'm going to get you to that $1 million. When we get to that chapter, you got to say, okay, I'm going to go get that mortgage. I'm now making some real money. I'm going to buy that first house, apply the things I've learned from this class to get to that $1 million. You need to say, what is my debt ratio before you walk in to apply for that loan? And you need to either pay something off or accumulate something to get that debt ratio to whatever that goal is. And you call a couple of mortgage companies, you go, hey, what's the debt ratio you look for to get the best interest rate you're offering? And they may say 0.5. And you count all your liabilities, and you divide it by your net worth and see what yours is at. And if it's not at 0.5, give it a few more months, focus on getting some of those liabilities paid off, and get that debt ratio to 0.5 before you walk in there. Next, current ratio. Liquid assets, not all the assets, the liquid assets, divided by current liabilities. Not all the liabilities, just the part that are a year or less due. Current is, in this case, this person had liquid assets of 4,000, current liabilities of 2,000. Their current ratio is 2. And do you think that what would be better? having a higher or lower current ratio? Higher. The higher your current ratio, the better. Let me go back to debt ratio. The lower your debt ratio, the better. You got one that's lower, better. One, the second one, the higher, the better. Third, liquidity ratio. And what I like to call this is emergency fund ratio. And it's all about your liquid assets divided by your monthly expenses. This really determines how long you could go without a job. And that's part of your very first and most important savings goal after graduation is the emergency fund. Before you're saving for anything else, it's all about the emergency fund. And the emergency fund should be, okay, I've got this apartment now to myself, I'm in a new city, how much is my rent? How much are my bills? How much are my expenses to survive if I didn't have a job? Now, if I go without a job, how long is it going to take me to get a new job that will be close to paying the kind of money I was making on the old job? And however many months that is, times your expenses, it should be your goal for the emergency fund. In this economy right now, it's one of the lowest amount of times I've seen in a long time. It's not that hard to find a job right now. I don't know what it's going to be like when you graduate, but unemployment's low, and when unemployment gets low, that means jobs are aplenty. Maybe not necessarily the exact job you're looking for, but there's jobs out there. And they need employees. And so the odds of you finding a new job, if you lost your job, won't take nearly as long as it did a few years ago. Back in 2010, it was the longest I had seen in a long time to find another job if you lost it. I mean, our economy got hit so bad in 2009 that 2010 was paying for it. So if I had to guess, I would want my liquidity ratio to be 4 months maybe, 3 months, at least 3 months, 4 months maybe, in this particular economy. But in 2010, I used to say 9 months, 12 months. It took people over a year to get a new job similar to what they were getting paid because the economy was so bad. So it all depends on the economy. You need to make adjustments on your emergency fund as the economy is changing your life. So it's liquid assets divided by your monthly expenses. 2.5. Higher the better, lower the better. Not all at once. Thank you. Higher the better. And the longer then you could go without a job. Debt payments ratio. By the way, this number is even more important than debt ratio when you're applying for that mortgage. Debt payments ratio, I'm going to give you a golden rule. Write it big somewhere. Debt payments ratio should never, ever, ever be more than 20%, 0.20. That's like a golden rule. Never, ever, ever, if you can help it, be over 0.20. If you get over 0.20, you've lost your mind, and you are borrowing far too much money to buy something you really don't need, and for some reason you want. And it's not going to bring you that happiness that you think it's going to bring you. And instead, it's going to come back to haunt you because you just took yourself over that 20% rule. How it's calculated? Monthly credit payments. Hey, I'm making a $250 a month payment on my student loan. I'm making a $100 payment on this credit card. I'm making I had these medical bills before I got medical insurance. I got to make a $100 payment a month on that one. But all those payments added together is your monthly credit payments divided by your monthly take-home pay. Does everybody know what I mean by take-home? It's not what you grossed. It's after taxes have been taken out of your check, and the retirement got taken out, and your copay on insurances got taken out. It's the amount gets transferred into your checking if you have direct deposit. When you graduate, whatever company you go at, they're going to make you have direct deposit if they don't already. Almost every company out there now forces the employees to have direct deposit, just saves the company a ton of money. And whatever amount gets directly deposited, because taxes were already withheld, that's the take-home pay. And that calculation, monthly credit divided by take-home pay, needs to be 0.20 or less. Lower the better, higher the better.
Lower.
Thank you. Lower the better. I've heard several people. Last one, savings ratio. It is the amount you're saving each month, which would be the amount your net worth is going up. That would be the true savings, divided by your take-home pay, or I'm sorry, your gross monthly pay. This is before taxes are taken out, before the retirement is taken out. The gross pay, not the net pay. This one is 0.12. Higher the better, lower the better. Higher. Higher the better. Now, when I started getting on my little savings race with myself, this savings ratio was the thing I kept challenging myself. I said, wow, look at this. I had a 10% savings ratio. How high can I get this? It was like literally trying to figure out what's the highest I could get this at. There was a time where I kept making more money, but I kept living like a poor college student. And that savings ratio, I mean, I got it up to over 30% at one time. And that was the key for me. I thought I was saving to go open my own business someday, and then I finally got to a point to where I said, wait a minute, why am I, I started talking to people who own their own business, and I go, wow, they're just as much stress as I am. And once you get in management, manage people, you get a lot of stress. And owning your own business causes stress. And I'm going, I'm saving all this money to own my own business just to transfer the stress. And then I said, now I'm going to save as much as I can to just stop working and get rid of the stress. And just do something fun, like teach. So that was my goal after that. But it was all about that savings ratio is what I focused on to try to see how high I could get that. Is there any questions? We'll pick up from here then next Monday. I hope we have class. You guys have had the worst luck there. It could be a snowstorm on Monday.